Jacksonville and the 49ers, the Jags, one of the least talked about teams in the AFC. Can they make a statement Sunday against the Niners? We'll talk about that next on DJ Football. It is DJ Football. He is Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network. I'm Ryan Brown. We thank you for joining us. And the show presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag and get that deposit match of 50% up to $1,000. That is money you can use right away. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere at MyBookie.ag. Week 10 about to kick. DJ, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Excited for this game that we're getting ready to talk about because it's not often that you have two of the better teams, one from each conference, both coming off a bye. So you have almost kind of like a mini Super Bowl here in the middle of the season, and both teams that have, kind of the same identity, real physical, tough football teams. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, let's start with Jacksonville in the AFC because you hear a lot of talk in the AFC about Kansas City, or rightfully so. The Dolphins, and they just met over in Germany. Kansas City got the win. You understand with the Dolphins, they haven't beaten anybody good. The Ravens are playing very well. You got the Cincinnati Bengals looking a little bit better. It's almost like nobody ever talks about Jacksonville, a team that was a very sexy pick in the offseason. Their start scared a few people off, but what are they doing better now?
Well, the defense has been there all year. That's been the big thing to me is all the eyes and all the attention go to Trevor Lawrence and this offense. And lo and behold, this defense has played lights out. So that's been the big thing. They are big and physical. Like when you go to a Jags game and you see NFL games on a weekly basis, when they get off the bus, they look different now. They are huge across the board. They're very long. They're very rangy. They're very athletic. So they're playing great defense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they've got a host of different guys they can beat you with. So that's been, that's been something that's gotten better as the season's gone along. And I think that you can be encouraged if you're a Jags fan to see, okay, they're still figuring things out offensively. But this defense travels. This is going to be a big time matchup.
Travis Etienne coming off the bye in his last 4 games leading up to the bye, 6 total touchdowns. He had a 130-yard performance against the Bills in there. That was a guy that last year kind of came on at the end of the year, and by the time they were in the playoffs, everybody was talking about Travis Etienne, and he has found some of that form of late.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's underrated about him is he was fast. He'd catch the ball out of the backfield. I don't think people realize how strong he is, and he's shown that between the tackles. He's a tackle breaker. He finishes runs. There's a physicality, again, that he's brought that I don't know that any of us expected to see at this level at this point in time. I thought we talked about it in the preseason. I thought you'd see other backs get in the mix there. I thought you'd see our guy Tank get a little more work in there and be that physical presence. And you don't need a physical presence when the other guy can give you that, as well as all the home run ability he possesses. So he's been outstanding. And look, they've got a trio of wide receivers. They can spread you out and throw it around too.
And they got a coach that knows his way to the postseason. Doug Peterson is a guy that knows how to get teams to the postseason.
Yeah, and this is also, we've talked about the head-on collision that's coming in the NFC between the 49ers and the Eagles. We'll get to see it here in a few weeks, but it's one that I think a lot of us anticipate will be a NFC championship matchup. And now you've got Doug Peterson, who kind of has that Eagles DNA. They play that same style of football. So it's going to be interesting to see. I know if you're an Eagles fan, you want to watch this game because this is going to give you an idea of what that matchup could look like here in a couple weeks. And Doug Peterson is always going to have his guys ready to go, the right mindset. He'll have creativity. And I saw it up close and personal in the playoffs last year. If it doesn't start the way that you want, it's nice to have an experienced head coach that can calm everything down and get right back into the ballgame.
That is an interesting way of positioning how that game went. It depends on which perspective you were looking from, right?
They went from throwing interceptions to never punting, and you can either give one the credit or the other the blame. I'll leave that up to the audience.
I mean, he really did. Trevor Lawrence had one of the worst halves
worst first quarters.
Yeah, and then had one of the best halves of postseason football. It was the wild. And some of that does have to go, all joking aside, to Doug Peterson. I mean, to your point, he's a guy that's not going to panic, right?
No, you're sitting there in the stadium wondering, are they going to pull him? Like, can you pull the number 1 overall pick in his first playoff game? Is that possible? But that's how bad it went. And he just kind of calmed him down. And then literally they didn't punt. They went down and scored touchdowns every possession.
Early kick on Fox, San Francisco and Jacksonville. We'll talk about the 49ers portion of this game in just a moment, but a reminder that the show is presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. Get that sign-on bonus of 50% sign-on match there, and that's up to $1,000. You can bet it right away. Win once. It is yours and yours forever. MyBookie.ag, code next round. That is MyBookie.ag, code next round for that sign-on bonus. Also, Manscaped.com. Products like the Handyman, which I've got right here, the easy to travel with razor, compact, does a great job. They've also got the Beard Hedger. They've got the lawnmower that takes care of all your body. And then they've got the Weed Whacker, takes care of the nose hair and the ear hair. Great boxer shorts, great male products, all at manscaped.com. Code DJF20 for 20% off your initial order there at manscaped.com. Code DJF20. All right, so for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, it looked like 49ers with that unstoppable machine rolling right towards the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. And then something happened in Cleveland, and they've been kind of a bumpy ride ever since.
Yeah, they hit a little bit of a rough patch, and they got some tough matchups in there as well. So, look, it's not the sky is falling. I do think, now that you've seen the numbers to accompany this statement, but they need to play with the lead. They're not a come from behind team. There's a lot to love about this team,
right?
Roster wise, as good as it gets, but they're built to play with the lead. And when they found themselves down, they haven't had the ability to come back. Now they missed a kick at the end of the Cleveland game, and that would have maybe changed this narrative a little bit. But the Cincinnati Bengals just jumped all over them. And that game, that was handled. That was over. That was a wrap. So I'm curious to see how fast of a start they can get off to. And I'll be honest with you, the thing I'm maybe most looking forward to in this entire matchup is seeing what Chase Young looks like after that trade was made, putting him in that defensive front on the opposite side of his college teammate Nick Bosa with Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave. That's going to be a very, very impressive looking group.
Yeah, defense that you wouldn't say has fallen off on the exit of DeMeco Ryans, and now you add a great defensive lineman like Chase Young.
Yeah, and look, the other thing is Steve Wilks has taken some heat because of what the Bengals did offensively against them. You had Joe Burrow rested and ready to rock and roll. That was I don't know that any defense in the NFL was going to slow him down in that game. So I think some people maybe overreact to that, and maybe the 49ers did. Steve Wilks is coming down from the booth all the way down to the field to call the defense now. He's caught some grief here. So they need to play well. They need to play better, and it's not an easy offense to go up against because the Jags, as we've mentioned, can run the rock, and they're not a single receiver dependent team. They've got speed at tight end. They've got speed on the perimeter. They've got a lot of different ways they can attack you.
Am I overreacting to Brock Purdy's last 3 games, having 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions? It has been a 3-game trend for him that has not been great.
No, that is what it is. I mean, I don't think that's I don't think that's overreacting at all. I think that's what we've seen. And the question marks that led to him being Mr. Irrelevant were physically related. Like, can he really power the ball and drive the ball? We know, people think it's offensive to say he's a caretaker or a system quarterback. There's nothing wrong with that. That's who he is. And he can do that at a very high level. But that requires you to play from in front. It does not go well when your run game does not matter. When you don't have to respect the run game and you can sit there and play coverages and you can set traps and you can force him to have to squeeze balls in tight windows versus, his ability to manipulate people and safeties with his eyes in the run game. When you take that all away, you're left with what your physical ability is. And that is, it's his shortcoming. I don't think that's tough to figure out. They need to play from in front.
Well, we'll see if they can do that. Sunday in Jacksonville, 49ers Jags, early game on Fox. DJ Football is presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. And they've got that deposit match of 50% up to $1,000. And you can play with that money right away at MyBookie.ag. Win once. It is yours and yours forever. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag. Also, Manscaped.com. By the way, code next round for that at MyBookie.ag. Manscaped.com, the handyman and other great products there at Manscaped.com. We're going to give you a code to save there as well. DJF20 saves you 20% off your first purchase there at Manscaped.com. DJF20. It is week 10 of the NFL. We do this every week. DJ Football, what?
Well, I just feel cheated. I like to get Because you didn't use the word undercarriage in your read. Like that's your go-to line, you know. And I just feel like when you do a Manscaped read and I don't hear you reference the undercarriage, I feel like I got cheated over here.
Well, okay. So they've got great products there, DJ, like the beard hedger, which I use all the time. They've got that lawnmower, which takes care of the undercarriage and the entire body. And then the weed whacker, which takes care of the nose hair and the ear hair.
That's the good stuff.
I did not know you're so hung up on that word. Manscaped.com.
Funny word.
Go DJF20 at manscaped.com. He's Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, and this is DJ Football.